If I could go back to my first semester self, this is what I'd say. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Welcome back to Law School After Dark, where we're studying cases after work and hoping we remembered to eat. Today we're going to talk about the advice that I wish I had gotten before I started law school part-time. Some of these things people kind of hinted at, but other things were just left completely out. So we're going to talk about 4 things. 1, you're not behind just because you're older or just because you're choosing to do part-time law school. 2, you don't need to know everything right away. That was one that I had to learn the hard way. 3, make peace with starting something again and not being perfect. And 4, find your people early. Number 1, you are not behind just because you're older or because you're going to law school part-time. One of the biggest things that I was concerned about was comparing myself to the 22, 23-year-olds straight out of college, because I had not stepped foot in a classroom in 10 years. So for me, I was like, I don't remember what it's like to be a student. I don't remember how to take notes. I don't remember how to study. Like, those are all things that I was concerned about because I hadn't done it in so long. So I was comparing myself to these fresh out of undergrad students when that's not what I needed to be doing. I needed to focus on how to do law school in a way that worked for me and in a way that worked for the part-time program, because obviously that's going to be different than the full-time. Our first semester we took 10 hours, so it was still a lot of work, and it was trying to figure out cases and trying to figure out different instructors' expectations and trying to figure out what an outline is and what these multiple choice questions would look like and what is IRAC, what is CREAC. Like, those were the things that I was trying to figure out. It should not have been comparing myself to the fresh out of undergrad student. Something else was that I wasn't behind these 22-year-olds who knew that they wanted to go to law school, because we both have experiences, but my experience is still valid and it is still valuable to law school. These different experiences that my classmates bring are valuable to our conversations because we're able to talk about cases and case law and rules of law in different ways that maybe the full-time students would not have. Number 2 is that you don't need to know everything right away. This was the hardest thing for me to understand and for me to grasp and hold on to, because you're not going to understand the readings right away. I would say the first couple of weeks, it is going to be just you reading and having no idea what's going on. My first semester, we took contracts, torts, our research and writing class, and we had like an SST, which for us is a student success team member who helped us with torts and contracts. Contracts, I did not understand. I could read and I would be like, oh, I get this. And then the instructor, who was an author on the book, on our textbook, would ask a question and I would be like, I didn't read anything that has to do with that. The first couple of weeks, it was that way. And the first time I got cold called in contracts, I didn't know the answer. And I had to say I didn't know. And I was devastated because I didn't understand what was being asked. And I immediately emailed the instructor to be like, I read, I just don't understand. Can we please meet? And in our meeting, he told me that he has 20 years of experience in contract law. I had 2 weeks of experience in contract law. I was not going to know the things that he knew, and I was not expected to know the things that he knew. And he asks the questions that he asked to get us thinking. And that was still one of the things that it was just so hard, because I wanted to know everything. I wanted to get all the questions right. But you're just not going to know everything right away. And something that instructors are going to disagree with in the advice that I'm about to give: you don't have to brief every single case that you read. I know. That is not what we're told. We're told that you need to brief every case. You need to know the rule. You need to know the holding. You need to know all of the things. However, I brief very few cases, but I am a huge book briefer. So I didn't know what book briefing was until a couple of weeks in. I would actually say probably a month or so in. I did not know what book briefing was. And then that's what I started doing. So I have different color highlighters that I do for different parts. So I have a color that is for the facts. I have a color for the holding. I have a color for the rule. And then I have a color just this seems important, but it doesn't really fall into the way that most people brief things. But I'm like, I want to know this, or this seems important to me. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But that's my advice. You don't have to brief every case. If you're assigned the case, obviously brief it. If you know that if your instructors follow a cold call where you know you're coming up, I would go ahead and brief. But if you just got cold called yesterday and you know you're not going to get cold called the next day, book briefing is completely fine. I would still read. It is still important for you to read and to know the information, but writing it all out is not going to be the most beneficial to everybody. Some people need to brief every case. I am not one of those people. And I've gotten to where I only book brief now. I don't do anything that is not a book brief. Number 3, make peace with being new at something again. Law school is very different than everything I've ever done before. And for me, it was a very humbling experience. And I think that that's okay. It's okay to be humbled. It's okay to try something new. And it's okay to be bad at something in the beginning. Nobody starts out law school being perfect and understanding everything. And those few students who do get it and who are like, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I know exactly what this stuff means. Great. You don't have to be that person. I feel like it goes back to don't compare your journey to the full-time students, but also don't compare your journey to the paralegal who's been a paralegal for 15 years and understands parts of the law that you've never talked about, seen, or anything like that. I had zero experience with the law before law school. So the entire idea of the legal world, legal research, briefing, all of those things were completely new to me. So it was a very humbling experience to have to learn everything. And so part of that is letting yourself learn without shaming yourself, because you're going to need to do what works for you. So like I said, book briefing works for me. With legal research, I'm a huge fan of Lexis. In full transparency, I'm a Lexis associate, a student Lexis associate at my institution. So I help other students with understanding what Lexis is. And I kind of know a little bit more about Lexis than just your average law student. And so I use Lexis for all of my research. For research and writing, I used it for that. I took my upper level writing class, used it for that. I'm going to be on the Jessup Moot Court team this coming year. I'm going to use Lexis partially, but because those are international cases, I'll be using other resources mostly. But you have to do what works for you. So Lexis really works for me with research. If Westlaw works for you, great, use Westlaw. but figure out what it is that's going to work for you and then kind of stick with that. And I would encourage you to try different things. I tried Westlaw, but Westlaw just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, so that's why I switched to Lexis. In regards to briefing, I tried briefing cases in the beginning, but it was just, I was spending too much time on briefing and not enough time on actually reading the case. I was just like regurgitating. I'd be like, oh, this is a fact, this is a fact, this is the holding, this is the rule. It was not, what am I actually learning? What is the actual issue? So by book briefing, I can just quickly highlight it and go back and be like, this is what I was supposed to know. Oh, this is why this fact goes with this rule, and this fact led to this holding. It worked for me. So you're gonna have to find what works best for you. One of my classmates, he handwrites everything. So in class, he handwrites his notes, he handwrites his briefs, he handwrites everything. I cannot handwrite anything. I type everything, all of my notes are in one place, I book brief. Like, we're complete opposites because we do what works for us. Which leads to number 4, which is find your people early. I was very lucky in that I found my people right away. One of my friends, we learned that we were going to law school together. We had known each other since 2016. We became friends probably around 2018, and then we started law school together. So I was lucky that I automatically had him kind of built in, and then we found other people. So that first semester, there was a group of 4 to 5 of us that would study together. I talked about that in the last vlog. But the best way to find your people, if your cohort does not have like a group text, like a group me or something like that, I would recommend starting one. Also, just kind of put yourself out there. If there's a student who is like rocking every cold call and you know that they are doing great and things like that, just ask them for help. Like, even if it's just, hey, what are you doing? Like, how are you studying? Put yourself out there to get that help. Last semester in our property class, we do team-based learning for property. So we had a small group. There were, I think, 5 or 6 of us. I can't remember. I think there were 6 of us. And it was before the final. I was completely lost. I didn't know how to study for property, and I just texted our group and I just said, y'all, I have no idea what to do and how to study for this. Can someone just tell me what you're doing? And I had my classmates decided, hey, let's just all jump on a Zoom call. Because, again, we're part-time students. We're not on campus every day. Let's just jump on a Zoom call. We can invite the other members of our class, so it's not just our little group. And let's just talk it out. And we did that, and we had about 4 people who jumped on the Zoom call. And we were able to just talk about what each of us was doing to study so that we could see, okay, so this person is using this supplement. This person is only using their notes. This person is using notes and PowerPoints. So by asking for help, I was able to kind of build a plan to study for that class, and I ended up getting top paper in that class. And I really do think it was because I asked for help, so I was able to figure out what everyone else was doing to study, and I kind of put it all together. And then the second semester of property, I still got an A. I didn't get top paper, but I still made an A on the final. And again, I say that's because I used my people so that we were able to explain things in different ways. And a big thing in law school for me and for my friends as well, you're gonna need support. And it's good to have that support from someone who's going through it. You want to have people outside of law school so that your whole life isn't law school, but you also want to have people in law school who understand what you're going through, who get it. And my biggest tip is don't wait until finals to reach out for that, because at that point, it's probably a little too late. Law school is going to stretch you, but it does not have to break you. I think that's the most important thing. Be willing to be stretched, but not to your breaking point. Go into law school, full-time or part-time, with your eyes open and your expectations lowered. Maybe go in with your expectations raised. I don't know. I went in with very high expectations of myself and realized very quickly that I needed to lower my expectations. So I recommend going in with your eyes opened and your personal expectations lowered. That's all for this week's episode of Law School After Dark. We'll be back next week with the same struggle but a different topic. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the chat below and I'll be happy to answer those either by typing or in next week's vlog. See ya!